Hi there, it's Laura here from Get Organized HQ, and today I want to share with you the answer to one of my most frequently asked questions, and that is, how do I make those vinyl labels that you see on those white bins behind me? Now, before we dive in, go ahead and take a second and subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and hit the bell. Let's talk about what you're going to need in order to make these labels. The first thing you're going to need is a cutting machine, because these labels are cut out of the vinyl such that there is nothing behind them. It's not like a sticker, so that's what makes them look so nice, and you will need a cutting machine for that. I'll be using the Silhouette Cameo. If you have other versions of the Silhouette, such as the Portrait or something like that, that will work totally fine. You can also use other brands of cutting machine. I also have a Cricut, and I love the Cricut, and this will work on there, and I'll be giving some tips toward the end of the video about how to use a Cricut if that's what you'd like to do. The concept of how you apply these labels is the same no matter what type of machine you use. Then you are also going to need the software to run the machine. So the Silhouette Studio software that I'll be using is free to download online. You'll need that. Then of course you will need the actual vinyl that you cut the labels from. I'm using this pink color Cricut 631 vinyl, and I get these in large rolls because I use quite a bit of it, and I also sell some of these labels, so I just get this in bulk. But you can get this in smaller quantities, and I will tell you that whether you use Cricut 631 or if you use the Silhouette vinyl or Cricut, they all work pretty much the same way, so it's not super important the exact type of vinyl that you get. This one is removable, so it's not going to stick quite as strongly. It's also not washable, which I like because I want to be able to remove it if I want to. And then you'll also need transfer tape, and this is what you use to apply the labels. Again, I get this in huge rolls. I will link to it down below, but you can also get it in much smaller sizes. And the only other thing you're going to need is a pair of scissors or a paper trimmer to cut the vinyl, and then something like a scraper or a credit card or something to help adhere the labels to the transfer tape or your surface. I'm going to start by designing the labels in the software, and then we'll cut them. So in order to design them, I have opened up Silhouette Studio. I do have the Designer Edition, which is a paid version, but the features I'll be using are also available in the free version. And so I've simply opened up a new document, and the first thing I'm going to do is go to the design area and make sure that I am on the proper settings. Got the proper cutting machine. I select cutting mat none, because with the Silhouette you can feed the vinyl directly into the machine, so there's no need for a cutting mat. And I will leave the size of the material at 12 by 24, although in reality, since it's a roll, it really doesn't have an end, but I won't cut past that, so I'm going to leave that there. And if you wanted to cut longer, you could adjust this height right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and get started. And labels are one of the simplest things that you can make in here. I want to note that the grid here is simply for purposes of you being able to see it. Nothing is going to print or cut as far as the grid goes. So all you're going to do is click over here on this letter, and that allows you to add text. And then I'm going to click somewhere on this area where I want the text, and I'm going to type my first label. So we're going to call this first label cards. All right, now I'm clicking off and back on, and I want to change this font to a different font style. And where you see the red is where it will actually be cutting. So I'm going to click here, and you can choose any font that you would like to use. Personally, I have used the Sacramento font back there, and that is a free font. I'll link to where you can download it. So you can go ahead and download that if you want them exactly the same, or choose whatever font you want, which is something that makes this so fun, is that the sky's really the limit because you have so many fonts that you can use. Then I'm going to move this to where I want it, and I'm going to go ahead and I want to zoom in on this a little bit more. In order to do this, I'm pressing Command or Control plus. I just like using the keyboard shortcuts to zoom in. It makes it a little bit faster. And I am going to do maybe 85 point. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And again, you can adjust it to whatever size you want right there. You can also, if you wanted to, click on a corner and drag and just size it visually without worrying about what point it is, what actual size it is. I like using the point size so that whenever I go to make labels again, I can make sure I'm matching that size, okay? So we have our main word here, and then there's a very important step. It's very easy, but you do not want to forget this step, and it's very easy to forget. You want to weld it, because if I zoom in quite a bit, you'll be able to tell that it's actually got each letter individually, and it would actually cut between the letters, and you want it to be all one thing, so you need to weld it. So what you're going to do is just click on it, right click, and then select weld. And you'll see how that put it all together. So now that is one item that will cut all together. And then I want to show you how to put a subheading like I do on some of my labels with a different font. So I'm going to go ahead and click the text. I'm going to write my word. So I'm going to say this is thank you and birthday maybe. Okay, then I'm going to select it again, and I want to change it to the font. And for me, it's Big Miss New. I already know what the font is, but you can look through your fonts and see what you'd like. And I know I want this to be much smaller. I think I'm going to try it at about 40. And again, I've got this pretty big. I'm going to zoom out by doing Control or Command minus. And I still think that is fairly big. So I'm going to go down to 35. And yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. Okay, then, whoops, I left out a letter. We don't want to do that. Okay, so next up, you want to center these. So first of all, I'm going to center them within the text alignment of each. Okay, now I know they're still not centered, and I will show you how to do that in just a second. Okay, so I'm going to click on this, and I need to click back to the text to get the text tools to come up. And then I should be able to select it. Oops. Oh, I cannot do that because this is already welded. So once it's welded, the text tools no longer work. It treats it like an object rather than text. So it's one important thing to note. But in order to center them, I'm going to go ahead and weld this. Now, the welding it is actually not really going to do anything to it in this case because none of those letters are touching. But once I've done that, and then I'm going to group it. So I like to use the shortcut Command or Control G. You may also right click and select group if you prefer to do that. So now I've got each of these together. I'm going to select them both. So I'm just dragging my mouse over while holding down the mouse, and then I'm going to let go, and those are both selected, and I'm going to use the alignment tool here. This is a tool I use all the time. It's one of my favorites, and you just mouse over it, and you can align either vertically or center or horizontally, left, right, center. I'm just going to click center, and it's magically going to line that up for me. And then I have one more step. I want to group both of these together. I'm first going to make sure that I like the distance that this subheading is from the main word. Then I'm going to select them, and again, I'm going to group them. So I'm going to right click and say group. Now that is one object. And if I were cutting many of these, I would just keep going with that. I would make sure that I keep them all the same font, and I could just create a whole bunch of labels and cut them all at once. I wouldn't cut them one at a time. That would take a lot longer than is necessary. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a couple more of these labels. Okay, now I have this design the way I want it with 3 labels here, and I am ready to start the fun part of cutting. So once you have the design, first of all, I recommend that you always save it just so that you don't lose your work. So you just do that by clicking File, Save, and you can name the file whatever you'd like and save it wherever you'd like. And then once you've done that, go to send up here, and that is how you're going to send it to the machine for it to be cut. I have my machine connected wirelessly. You can also connect it via wire. Many machines give you that Bluetooth connection option, which I think is just easier. That way you don't have to mess with an extra wire. All right, so once you've done that, it is time to load our machine with the vinyl. So first what we're gonna do is load this vinyl in here. We're gonna load it directly in without a cutting mat. Now, one thing that is really important is that you have your rollers adjusted properly. This roller moves, and I am gonna show you how to adjust that. So you'll see these arrows right here. For a mat, you want this far right arrow, but for loading vinyl straight in, you want it to be lined up with this arrow. So in order to move this thing, what you're gonna need to do is take this lever and pop it down, and that loosens this bar so that you're able to move it. Then roll the bar till you see this little lock symbol, and as you squeeze that, you're gonna be able to move it, and you feel it lock in. I felt a little pressure there, and it's locked in, and the only thing I need to do to get the whole bar locked is push this back up, and now it is set up properly for me to load the vinyl. So I have set my roll of vinyl down, and then I am going to place it flat on this machine, and I'm gonna push it until it meets these rollers, and then I usually keep a hand down here to keep it flat, and I press this button right here to load it, and it's gonna start moving. That's all there is to it. It is now loaded, and then I unroll it just a tad. I want it to have a little bit of slack. When it's cutting, it's gonna be moving it back and forth, and I don't want it to have the full weight of the roll on there. And that's all there is to it. It is loaded. And I want to mention that for this cut, I'm only using carriage 1. Carriage 2 would be if you wanted to do additional things, and I just have a standard blade loaded in carriage 1. So now I want to make sure that my settings are proper. So we're going to cut edge right here, and all those red is where it's going to cut. And then I want to make sure, this is super important, you want your cut settings to be proper. So like the depth of the blade and the pressure. And Silhouette has a lot of pre-cut settings for you, and you can simply select them. This is matte vinyl, so I simply select that. And personally, this is just my personal preference, I also like to cut it at a depth of 2. So I just click that little arrow right there, and so that makes the blade a little bit deeper. Again, it's just my personal preference. That's what I always did, and so that's what I continue to do. And then all we have to do, it says right here that it is ready. That means it's hooked up and ready to go, and I just simply click the send button, and it will start cutting. All right, it is now cut. I know it's really hard to see, but it is cut in person. You can see when you look closely. So I'm just gonna press this, and it's gonna unload the vinyl. Just took the vinyl out, so now we are done with the machine, and we are done with the computer. And the fun part comes of weeding and applying. So I just take a paper trimmer, and I'm just gonna cut off the labels. This, you could use scissors if that's all you have, and then comes the fun part. Now again, even in person, it's really almost hard to see them, but they are cut, and all you're gonna do is lift up, and as we lift, we're gonna be able to see the labels stay down on the backing. This, I think this is the fun part. It's like where you really see them come together. And I lift up kind of slowly because I don't want to take any of these real little letters with me. When you cut real little letters, that can happen. And then we're done with this. We can get rid of this. And now we're left with these labels. And your next step for these is to weed them. That means you take out these little centers of the letters so that those don't apply. So I'm using the Cricut weeding tool. This is my favorite. There's lots of different ones. Silhouette has one, but you will need a weeding tool. This would be very, very hard to do without a proper tool. So you'll see I'm just kind of scraping, and I'm making sure that I'm not poking any holes in the letter itself. Sometimes I just use my nail and I'm just taking out all of the centers. And I would do that on all of the labels. And this is probably the most tedious part. I find it kind of relaxing. Back when I sold these, I would just like put on a show and just sit down and weed labels, and I thought it was kind of fun. Okay, so I've got that first one weeded. And then let me show you your next step is, when you're ready to apply, is transfer tape. Now this transfer tape, all I'm going to do, and there's all different types of transfer tape. There's some with grids, there's some, different textures, but it should be see-through so you can see what you're doing. And it's sticky, but not so sticky that you can't pull it up. So I'm just gonna pull this out a little bit, and I'm gonna grab a pair of scissors, and I'm just gonna cut a piece of this transfer tape that is about the right size. And this even tears pretty well if you want to do that. Then the next step is you just place the transfer tape straight down on the label, and you can kind of see through it. And I'm only pressing on the one label that I want. Sometimes it is easier if you cut these apart first so you can't accidentally get something of another label. Okay, so I'm pressing down. You want to make sure that you press down really good. And you can use a credit card. They have special scraper tools that I often use. So make sure it is adhered pretty well. That's why I really love using the scraper tool. That's going to really get it adhered. And then you want to remove the backing like this carefully. Sometimes it works better to take the backing off. And I kind of go straight back. And I find that that works better because you want the label to stay on the transfer tape. Okay, so now it's on the adhesive, and if you look at it this way, that's how the direction that it goes. So then I simply apply it to my surface. So since it's clear, I just kind of eyeball it. Try to get it centered right on there. Push it down. Then I use my scraper tool to make sure it's smooth. And then I fold back. I like to go directly back, and see how fast that is. And when you go directly back like that, it doesn't pull up the label with it. And that is all there is to it. Now we have a label. Now, I know that a lot of you probably have a Cricut machine, or maybe trying to decide whether you would like a Silhouette or a Cricut. So I want to point out a couple of differences if you're using the Cricut machine. Now, I have multiple Cricut machines and I absolutely love them, especially the Joy, because it's so little and just easy to take around. It does so many fun things and some different things with labels that no other machine really does as well. So I love that machine as well, but I do want to point out a couple of differences. Number one, if you have the bigger Cricut machine, like the Maker or one of the full-size machines, you will need to put your vinyl on a mat before you cut it. To me, that's not really a big deal. It doesn't take very long to stick it on a mat, but that is the case. Now, if you are using the little Joy machine, then they have smart vinyl, which means it just feeds straight into the machine, no mat needed. So that is a great option for carrying it around with you and labeling things. But the other big difference comes in their software when you are setting up the labels in their software. I'm going to demonstrate how this works for you and kind of let you see for yourself what the difference is. So here I've just opened Cricut. I have it set on the Joy. I'm going to click text, and I'm going to say that I want to make this cards label. Okay, so I've got that, and then Cricut will let you use all different fonts. So that's a great feature as well. I can use the same font that I could use anywhere else. I'm just going to search for that font. I'm going to click on it. Okay, now this is where it gets different, and this is what is my least favorite part about trying to use the Cricut software, is you'll see how it is spaced these. And when I did it in Cricut, it used the default spacing that comes with the font and it did it properly. Now you can decrease the space, no problem. I'm going to try to zoom in so you can see this a little bit better. So it's not hard to decrease the space right here. However, this is what I've found. There is no space that is perfect, because as I get to the -0.6, the C and the A are already too close together, but the A and the R are not close enough. And then if I make the A and the R just right, the C and the A are too close together, so it just loses that automatic spacing. Now, I have done a lot of research, and the only thing that I have found is you really have to place each letter individually, and if you're doing a lot of labels, that is a huge pain. However, there is another way of doing it, and this is the way that I would more commonly do it anyway, and that is that I use another program like Illustrator to set up my labels. I'm just more comfortable with Illustrator. I personally, when I design them, I want to be able to export them as an SVG to give them to you so that anyone could use it in Cricut or Silhouette or whatever software that you have. So I would do that anyway, so it's a moot point for me, for someone who uses Illustrator. But if you want to use the Design Space software that comes with it, that is something that you're gonna have to know. That if you have a font that's cursive that connects up on its own, you're gonna have to do a lot more work or just live with it not being perfect. Now, if you're using a font where the letters don't connect, it's also not gonna be a big deal. It's gonna look fine whether you place them individually or not. So that's just something to keep in mind. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make these labels for yourself. Now, as always, links to everything you need and everything I've mentioned are down below if you want to check those out. And come back and let me know if you try these labels for yourself, and let me know how they turn out.